My name is Dr. Adrienne Bryant. I've actually been in education for 17 years. I had incredible teachers as I was growing up. I had African American teachers. Although my school was not per se African American, I was in an area where I had African American teachers. Miss Johnson and Mrs. Allen just identified me right away as someone that they just poured all their energy into. At least I felt that way. They knew I was bright, and so they would give me certain things to do, special things to do. It just really nurtured me through elementary school. And so when I got to middle school, when it changed, because I was in the 60s, so I got that experience then, things began to change. The classrooms were very traditional, very traditional. We had to do, they nurtured everything. They knew where we were coming from as African American children. They knew our experiences, and they knew what we had before us. So there was a lot of structure. And I mean, some of the things that our teachers did that you can't do now. But I can remember things such as Mrs. Allen, who was my first grade teacher. We had to have our fingernails cleaned when we came into class. And if they weren't, she would hit us across our hands with a ruler. We were first graders. And so it taught us that we had to hold our pencil a certain way. Everything was very, very highly structured. But she did it with love. And those just amazing experiences. Later on, my teacher, Mrs. Johnson, I remember one day I came to school and she knew that my mother worked nights. And I came to school, my hair was kind of messed up. She took out a comb and brush and combed my hair in class. and put it together. So little things like that is, I remember. But it was very, very structured. I've always taught here in Denver Public Schools. I started off in Henry. That was where I say that I got baptized by fire. I'm a special needs teacher. And just right off the streets, I believe, because I had applied for a job and I thought there'd be something like orientation. I worked in the business world, and we orientated everyone that came into our business environment. And you put them with a person who became their peer. And they worked together, and you were trained. There was training. I was just put into a classroom and started teaching 17 special needs kids in a room this size. This was like 20 by 13 in a room this size. And no books, no materials. The principal came in and brought me a stack of newspapers. And she said, have them read the newspaper. And that's what I was using, was the newspaper to teach them. My teaching style has evolved. I'm glad to say that it has evolved. I mean, growing up, you try to bring in what you grew up with. Like, I was very structured when I grew up. So you wanted nice rows of kids, everybody sitting nicely, raising their hands, that sort of dynamic. But that doesn't work for all children, especially the population that I teach. They need a little bit more of a dynamic space. I think they respond better in a more dynamic space. I have 21st century kids. None of my kids even relate to anything that I grew up with. I mean, they have cell phones and iPods and everything, video and YouTube and Google, and so my teaching I feel has to be around that. Now, I have colleagues that might disagree, but I try to really pep it up for them. I mean, I bring Jay-Z into my classroom. I bring anyone who says something about that education is good. If they say those words, I try to capture that and bring it to my students. We are studying China, so we're looking at a lot of YouTube videos from China. I'm letting YouTube introduce my kids to some of these subjects, and then I can come in but we're reading a very traditional book, which is called The Red Scarf Girl. Very traditional book, but I'm balancing it out with the hook that I hope will keep them engaged, and because I've got to keep them engaged because that's how they're going to learn. They're learning all the time, but if I want them to learn the curriculum that will move them ahead, I've got to put a hook in there. So right now is I have 15 special needs kids of various different disabilities. I share the room, the space with another teacher. I have my Obama posters up all over the place. That's the President of the United States. So I have the President of the United States everywhere. I have what I call 3 positive words, which is what I call my class. My class is bright, brilliant, and vibrant. And so we've been doing this positive word thing. It's not my best classroom. I mean, I would prefer if I didn't have to share the space with someone else, some comfortable seating, to be able to be more dynamic with my way my roles are. But my other teacher is a traditional teacher, so every row we have rows and seats, and they sit. But I allow them to move about. I allow them to do what they need to do. I have young men that have that energy that need to move and do what they need to do. So they get up. I have mostly boys. I have my 95, and this has been all through my teaching year in special needs, 95% boys. Maybe 1 girl, maybe 2 girls. This year I'm lucky I have 3 girls out of 15 students. It's always been that way, and largely African American. So I bring in a lot of curriculum. I just finished a book study group with Alfred Tatum, Dr. Alfred Tatum, about teaching African American boys, and all that just revitalizes me. And I bring out my arsenal of anything that I can think of. You know, I would love for Adrienne Green to come to my class and just show up, and just be there. You know, just so different things. Relationships are important. They're very important, and how you establish those relationships. So we teach the whole child. Right now, my classroom begins with breakfast in the classroom. Okay, so I feed them breakfast. We'll probably have dinner in the classroom soon. You know, we already have lunch, you know, and so yeah. And it just helps, it gives you more time to build those relationships. You can't always do it, you know, in that 45 minutes, especially in middle school. So we have to provide that time if we are trying to make competitive kids. Now, that's not for every child, but for my population, it's important. Okay, No Child Left Behind. I think the intent was good because they was to hold schools more accountable. It was to start people to take a closer look at how we teach children. That was very important, to cast a spotlight on education. What we have now is over a 100-year-old educational system that's just ingrained. And it was never designed for certain populations. And of course it was not designed for my population. When you think about the hegemony that is pervasive in our culture, it's an uphill climb for most kids of color. And that's changing. It really is changing. Like I said, I just went into a book study group, and I couldn't believe the young people that are coming up teaching now. They get it. They see the effects of 250 years of slavery. They see the effects of de facto segregation and how that has permeated into the educational system. They also are stepping up, and these are young people who are able to identify, yeah, that's not a good way to treat this child. That's not a good way to talk to this child. You know, some of the things that when I grew up, that's just the way it was. That's just the way it was. The ideal classroom to me is no longer in 4 walls. It's students getting up, when they get up, turning on their computer. Good morning, Dr. Bryant. What have you got for me today? I need you to do this, this, and that. And I need you to have it done by such and such and such a time. And I need you to converse with so-and-so, this person, this person, this person. I'm giving them the same instructions. It's almost like Mission Impossible. I don't know if you remember the early days of Mission Impossible, if you've seen any of the early movies, but they would get like this folder. And he'd go through the folder and he'd pull out the different people that he wanted to be on the mission. And they would have that challenge, and they'd have to accomplish it in a certain amount of time. That's what I think the classroom is going to look like. Now the student has the desire, because they want to know it. Because I can't complete my mission until I know this. And it fits right into what they want to do. It's more child-directed, as opposed to me trying to figure out what every kid needs to know, or taking a curriculum and just throwing it out there and hope that, because everything's changing. But those young people out there need skills, working together, working on a project, working on a mission to do it. And that's just starting like 5th grade. After they learn their multiplication tables, let them loose. I just am against kids being just, pigeonholed into classrooms and into schools and into buildings, and they have it all at home anyway, everything they need. We're not going to use chalkboards anymore. We've got these iPads. We're not going to need pencils anymore. We've got cell phones. We've got computers. This stuff is going to be obsolete.
So you're saying change with the times of technology.
Yes. Well, definitely the ideal system is worldwide. It's connecting. Once you learn how to work within a group in your community, then you work within a group in your country. Now you've got to work with a group worldwide. Maybe instead of connecting to those people in your classroom, now you've got to connect to somebody in Argentina, somebody in Czechoslovakia, somebody in Zambia. Okay, they're now on your team, and you're working on some mission project. And you've got to go out and find those things that you need to do to bring that together.
My name's Oswald.